Yo, what's going on guys, Arekkz here, welcome back to another video for the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And in today's video, I wanted to put together a quick combat guide to share some rather useful tips with you that, if mastered, will be sure to help you out massively as you progress through the game. So if you do enjoy this, then a like would be super appreciated. Any questions, be sure to drop them down below, and also let me know what you guys are most excited to do first in Zelda when it releases on Friday. Also, for anyone trying to avoid spoilers, there will not be any in this video. This is basically just going to be me fighting random low-level enemies around the starting area and just a little bit outside. Now, first up, let's talk Flurry Rush. When locked onto an enemy, you can press the jump button with a direction to hop around. Forward is obviously how you start a jump attack, back will result in a backflip, and left or right is for side hops. And while you can quite happily jump around to your heart's content, if you time your backflip or your side hops right, just as an enemy attack is incoming, you will instead enter this slow motion matrix style mode where you can then spam the Y button to rush in and land a good few attacks. And while yes, you don't really need to do this on some of the weaker enemies, when you start to encounter some of the bigger enemies, take this guy for example, then it can certainly help you sneak in some much needed damage before they have time to react. So, to reiterate, if you want to perform this, you need to either backflip or side hop just as the enemy attack is incoming. Also pay attention to the direction. If it's a wide sweeping horizontal attack, you will want to backflip, but if it's a vertical attack, you will instead want to side hop. It'll take a bit of time to master the timing, but once you do get it down, you'll be doing it no problem. Next up, pay attention to your surroundings. Anytime you encounter large groups of enemies around some sort of camp, cave or base, there is more often than not a way to deal with them before just running in like Rambo. For example, take this skull cave here. There's a bokoblin outside and a few inside, but if you want to make the fight a little bit easier, you can shoot the lantern in the eye, it'll then drop down, set off the explosive barrels inside, in turn killing some of the enemies in the process, meanwhile injuring some others. Again, over here, these bokoblin relaxing around the camp with some strategically placed explosive barrels. A quick fire arrow is a surefire way to give them an abrupt wake-up call. Or even here, these conveniently placed rocks can also be used to set off these barrels. However, it's not always explosive barrels. There are other things you can do too. For example, these two bokoblin over here are awfully close to this beehive. Shoot it out the tree and the bees will chase them away, at least for a little while, which should then give you the time to either sneak past should you want to, or sneak into the camp and steal their weapons. See, anytime enemies like these sit around a campfire, they usually put their weapons down, so sneaking in and stealing them before starting the fight also puts them at a bit of a disadvantage. Obviously a lot easier to do if they're asleep. And speaking of sneaking, that brings me nicely on to the next point, sneak attacks. If you crouch by clicking the left stick, you can then sneak behind enemies. If you get close enough, you will then be prompted to perform a sneak strike, which will, for the most part, one-shot enemies. Again, pretty useful if you don't want them setting off the alarm. And then finally, the last but most important tip, learn to parry. When you hold down L to bring up your shield, you can then press A to perform this parry motion. Much like Flurry Rush, if you time it correctly when an attack is incoming, you will then parry the attack, in turn allowing you to sneak in some extra hits. It's also much better than blocking because your shield won't deteriorate or break quite as fast. However, parrying has a far greater use than in combat with basic enemies. If you've seen any of the Breath of the Wild trailers, you should be familiar with the Guardians, these four-legged walking turrets for want of a better description. They are pretty powerful, and if you're shot by one of their lasers, you're probably going to end up dead. Also, if you attempt to just block one of the lasers, it'll destroy your shield. However, pretty sure you guys can see where this is going, you can actually parry their laser beam. It's risky because if you mess it up, you will likely end up worse off, but if you get it down, it is by far the best way to take these guys out. If you parry just as you see the blue laser coming out of its eye, you will then bounce it right back from whence it came, dealing some serious damage. In fact, if it's one of those Guardians that are just stuck in the ground, like in the plateau without the legs, it'll one-shot them. However, the more mobile ones like these do take a little bit more. But regardless, if you can master this, then these guys will never trouble you ever again. And that, my friends, is pretty much it. Well, one more point for fun. If an enemy throws a rock at you, you can bat it right back in their face if you time your attack right. Good old-fashioned tennis. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully these tips will be useful to you heading into Friday. So again, if you did enjoy it, then a like would be super appreciated. Keep it locked for more Zelda videos, and thanks for watching. Take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.